Hello, and thank you for joining us on this week's ISP F1 Visa Navigator. My name is Houston Kadorima. Now, when preparing for US F1 student visa interview, many applicants worry about one question. Will a gap in my studies hurt my chances? This concern is especially common among students who have taken time off before returning to school, those pursuing a second degree after years of work, or older applicants continuing their education later in life. The truth is, having a gap in your studies does not automatically disadvantage you at your F1 visa interview, but it does mean you may face a few extra questions. In this episode, let's take a closer look at how consular officers view traditional and non-traditional students and how you can position your story with confidence. Now, in visa interviews, the term traditional student usually refers to someone who progresses through education in a continuous sequence directly from high school to a bachelor's program or immediately from a bachelor's into a master's. Their timeline is straightforward and their life stage is consistent with what consular officers usually expect. By contrast, a non-traditional student is anyone whose educational journey looks different. This could mean taking several years off to work, pausing for personal reasons such as raising a family, or returning to school later in life. It may also describe someone who is married, has children, or is older than the average student applying for a program. It is important to emphasize that there is no official U.S. immigration category called non-traditional student. Consular officers don't receive special instructions to deny or treat such applicants differently. However, being non-traditional simply means you stand out from the typical profile, and that usually prompts the officer to ask additional questions about your background and plans. Now let's talk about if a study gap can hurt your chances. The short answer is no. Gaps in studies are common worldwide and officers know this. Thousands of students each year successfully obtain F1 visas despite taking breaks between their studies. However, because it is less common, a gap draws the officer's attention. Their main concern is whether you are a genuine student with a clear reason to pursue studies in the US now. They may also want to confirm that your future plans make sense given your age, work history, or family situation. For example, a 20-year-old heading straight into college may not face many questions about their background. Their focus is obviously on academics. But a 35-year-old returning from a master's after working in business for 10 years will likely be asked why they are pursuing education now, how it fits their career trajectory, and whether they plan to return home after finishing. This does not mean older or non-traditional students are at disadvantage. On contrary, their experience can often strengthen their case if they are ready to explain how the degree fits their current stage of life. Now let's talk about how to explain gaps effectively. If you have a study gap, preparation is key. Expect to be asked questions such as, what were you doing during the years you weren't in school? Why are you choosing to study now? And the best approach is to give a concise, truthful explanation. For example, if you worked, explain how professional experience now motivates you to get specialized skills through a US degree. If you paused for family or personal reasons, explain how circumstances have changed and why you are ready to focus on academics again. If you are older, connect your degree to a career pivot or advancement opportunity at home. The goal is to show that your decision to study now is logical, intentional, and beneficial for your future. Now, how do you prove your intent as a genuine student? Visa officers look for 3 things in every F1 case. First is if you are a real student. Show genuine interest in your program. Talk about specific courses, professors, or research opportunities that attracted you. The more personalized your answer, the more credible you appear. The other thing is, if you can afford it, be prepared to clearly explain how you will pay for tuition and living expenses. Whether it's personal savings, a sponsor, or an educational loan, your funding must be realistic and consistent with your documents. And the other thing they look at is if you will return home. This is often the deciding factor. For younger applicants, ties to family can be enough. For older or non-traditional students, highlight commitments such as employment, business, property, or family responsibilities that show you plan to return. Remember, gaps in your studies are not the problem. Failing to connect your story to these 3 pillars is what risks your application. Now, here's what to expect based on your profile. For traditional students, the officer will focus on your academic intent and readiness. You should be able to describe your program, your career goals, and why you choose your university. Non-traditional students expect additional questions. The officer may probe your work history, your family situation, or why you are pursuing studies now. This is not a bad thing. It's simply their way of ensuring your story is consistent. In both cases, the winning formula is the same: clarity, honesty, and confidence. Whether you are 19 or 39, single or married with children, traditional or non-traditional, you can succeed at the F-1 visa interview. There's no rule that disqualifies you because of a gap, your age, or your personal life. The only requirement is that your story makes sense. At the International Scholars Program, this is exactly what we prepare students to do. Take the next step in your success journey. Join our community of bold achievers and let us guide you from admissions, funding, to visa success and beyond. If you have a bachelor's degree with at least 2.8 GPA out of 4, and for Uganda 3.8 out of 5, you are eligible to join us, and your high school performance does not matter. Visit our website www.internationalscholarsprogram.com and grab our program handbook. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, all at International Scholars Program. That's it for this episode. See you next week.